On this news program that I just watched where they were interviewing Paul Ryan, they also interviewed Karen Finney, who is one of the top campaign people for Hillary Clinton. And Karen Finney never really answered any question that the interviewer asked, any of the positions that Hillary had on the issues. She deflected, she obfuscated, but she never answered an actual question. Now, that is to be expected. Hillary herself isn't doing that. Why should one of her top campaign people? But it's still troubling. I mean, even by political standards, this Clinton campaign is really opaque. Again, it's expected, but it's still troubling. Well, it's hypocritical, I guess, too. Again, troubling, but expected. It's hypocritical because Hillary, one thing she has said is that she doesn't think it's right that CEOs earn all this money. But CEOs are doing a job, and they've negotiated a contract. So why is it wrong for them to earn that money? There are countries that have tried putting caps on CEO salaries, and all that accomplishes is chasing CEOs out. They'll go to a nation that has no such cap. In other words, you're chasing talented people that can run a company well offshore. And I mean, that does not do this country any good to chase any talented people offshore. But it's hypocritical too, because Hillary makes a lot of money giving speeches. And that isn't even productive, the way serving as a CEO or a CFO or sitting on the board of directors of a company is. That adds real value to a company if you have an effective, knowledgeable team serving on the board of directors. Giving a speech is just talk. And that sums the Clintons up in a nutshell right there. They're just talk. Hypocritical talkers. What's worse. So this whole thing about Hillary's speech the other day too, she mentioned infrastructure. I've talked about infrastructure before, about how it takes so ridiculously long for us to actually build infrastructure in those rare instances when we actually decide to build some. But, you know, that is hypocritical of Hillary too. Her husband was in the White House for 8 years, and they didn't do a thing about infrastructure. Obama has been spouting off about infrastructure, but he's been in the White House for nearly 7 years, and he hasn't done a thing about infrastructure. So Hillary's preaching about it now. But where have these people been when they've been in control? I mentioned speeches are just talk as compared to a CEO, which actually offers value to a company. If you have a knowledgeable CEO and one that has better organizational skills than others, can add real value to a company and have a positive effect on that company, a positive effect on the economy, a positive effect on the nation, if you hire the best CEOs. But talk is cheap, as they say. And that is all these people have done. They've had chances to take action and actually do something to build highways and bridges and all the other infrastructure we need, and rail. Rail would be a boon. If we'd actually put rail in this country where we can move the freight by rail and not have trucks going cross country, where it could just go from where stuff is produced to the nearest rail terminal, and it ships everywhere by rail. That would be a much more efficient system. It'd be far less polluting. Goods could get around a lot more inexpensively. Looked into it. There are all kinds of things infrastructure-wise we could be doing. So Hillary says we need to build infrastructure, but where have they been on this for the 7 years that we've had a Democrat in the White House? And they even controlled Congress for quite a while. Or how about under Bill Clinton? Did he ever sign an infrastructure bill? No. Our infrastructure has been crumbling since the 90s. So the Clintons and the Obamas, all these people talking about infrastructure are just talking about infrastructure. They aren't actually doing anything about infrastructure. They're trying to use it as a political tool to make other people look bad, but they're just as guilty of it as the people they're accusing, if not more so. So I would ask my fellow Americans, when you guys are making your decisions during this primary season and in the general election in 2016, that you consider this. These people that are complaining about a lack of infrastructure and how we are not building and upgrading our infrastructure, they haven't done a thing about it either. And I hope people remember that.